Hi everyone, it's Ruby G with Truth in Neurons. Today, in the IDAH04 case analysis, I want to discuss information about SODDI. Some other dude did it. Some other dudes did it, in this case. So this allows for exploration around the intersection of small town relationships, victim family influence, and legal strategy.
Is it someone that she knew, or?
I have something to say about that. I just feel like there's been a couple individuals that were cleared very fast. That may not, maybe she shouldn't have been. And yeah.
She had the strong alibi.
Just really fast.
If you can dismiss.
An hour later, and we're like, what? And I don't know. I don't know anything about those individuals. I just know they were people that, definitely should have been looked at. And
so we want to start analysing these dynamics more comprehensively. So I think this is a good way to do it. We have a small town investigation problem. The Moscow Pullman scenario describes or exemplifies a classic challenge in forensic criminology. Small town investigations where interpersonal connections can potentially compromise procedural integrity.
What new can you tell us, Steve? I know we got this new surveillance video that was released by our digital team today. What can you tell us?
That film, to the family, we've had that film for a while. I believe the business reached out to us directly, and after they had given it to the police. So it was kind of comforting to us because it's just two girls having a good time talking about, asking about their bartender and just being girls on their way to the grub truck.
Yeah, so you don't suspect that this guy, Adam, that's stated in the video is somehow a suspect or anything like that. You guys have known about this video for a while.
We have, and we asked, and we did the obvious due diligence when we looked into that, and it was pretty clear that this individual was not a part of the investigation as far as a suspect.
When Steve Goncalves reportedly helped police determine who should be cleared quickly, several problematic forensic investigation principles potentially emerged. We could have confirmation bias, acceleration. So in a tight-knit community, investigators may unconsciously or consciously, but probably unconsciously, expedite clearing individuals they know could be involved, especially when influenced by respected community members. Another thing that could happen is premature evidence filtering, where victims' family members or a victim's family member with local connections participates in suspect elimination. Investigations therefore might prematurely narrow their focus, discarding potentially valuable evidence that doesn't fit the emerging narrative.
Your family has been very outspoken in support of Jack. He's Kaylee's ex-boyfriend. And on the Moscow police website, he is not listed, notably, as someone who has been cleared in the investigation. To your knowledge, is that significant?
No. I don't personally think so, because I think that there's the entire rest of the world that's also not on that list of people who have been cleared.
Right.
And something else that we need to be aware of is that tunnel vision enhancement may have occurred. This means that law enforcement, already prone to tunnel vision in high-profile cases, might have this tendency amplified when influential community members direct attention towards or away from specific individuals. So let's look at the SODI defense strategy in context. So Ann Taylor's introduction of alternative perpetrators is particularly strategic given these circumstances. The SODI, some other dude did it, is most effective precisely in scenarios where investigation integrity issues exist. So when there's legitimate questions about whether all potential suspects were thoroughly investigated. Secondly, community dynamics influenced early investigations. So small town relationships potentially compromised objective investigation procedures. Also, if there's evidentiary gaps that remain. So the prosecution's case contains circumstantial elements that leave room for reasonable doubt, and there's plenty of reasonable doubt here. So I think most of us would agree to that. Certainly a lot of us would. In this case, Steve Goncalves' public statements about clearing certain individuals through his involvement create a perfect opening for the defence. They could use this. So if he genuinely influenced who was investigated or not investigated, I mean, this could just be him flexing. This could be him, showing that he's in control, but it may be something more going on here, and they could use this. So this would represent a significant procedural vulnerability that a competent defence could exploit through the SOTI approach. And I think that the psychological dynamics become even more complex when we consider authorities' displacement. So law enforcement might defer to a grieving parent who projects authority and certainty.
It's going to be a cold case if we don't do something within the next week or two.
Goncalves says he respects the need to withhold some information, but is frustrated by what he calls a lack of communication from law enforcement, leaving the father of 4 slowly losing his patience.
Every day that goes by and you don't hear anything, what does that do?
Just tells me statistically I'm going to have to do more work myself.
We also need to think about the grief-driven investigative inference. A parent's psychological need for answers and control may manifest as asserting influence over investigative directions, potentially eliminating leads based on personal beliefs rather than evidence. And we all know there's been an immense amount of media narrative control, and by positioning himself as having privileged information, Steve Goncalves has effectively shaped public perception, creating pretrial bias that the defense must now counter.
Which is frustrating to me because I've been very trustworthy. I do know things. I haven't shared things. We're the same family that found the original timeline. We're the same family that broke into the phones. We tried everything in our ability to try to get into this system because a court order is not the fastest thing.
So there may be legal implications moving forward, and Taylor's submission of alternative perpetrator names represents a direct challenge to the investigation's foundational integrity. The court must now contend with whether premature clearing of suspects occurred due to community relationship dynamics, or if potential viable suspects were overlooked due to a victim's father's influence, and whether investigators properly maintained professional boundaries or allowed grief-driven input to shape investigative directions. It's a big one. As the case proceeds, the court will need to carefully evaluate whether Steve Goncalves' reported role in helping clear individuals compromised the investigation's thoroughness and objectivity to a degree that creates reasonable doubt about the prosecution's case. That's all for today's episode of Truth and Neurons. If you found this analysis helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on the ethics of media commentary in high-profile cases. Until next time, keep thinking critically and questioning everything. Cheers, bye.